Hey, Chris, how's it going?
What is going on? Amanda, we are back. Are you excited?
I am excited. I
I
don't
am.
remember the last episode that we had. I think it was like April or something like that. And I think that both you and I got really busy in the industry. We've seen as soon as
Mhm.
people were able to start go back and do showings, it was like time to work. And it kind of was a nice break to take from the podcast and do a little regroup. And so just so that our listeners know, we did a little rebrand with the help of our Kelsey Diastra, who's been an awesome new addition to the team. She's also responsible for the beautiful work on the Instagram page, Real Estate Ready
Shout out to
Podcast.
Kelsey. She's been
She's
amazing.
crushing it. And so we've decided to gear the podcast a little bit more toward real estate agents and people in the real estate industry. Whereas before our audience was a little bit more broad, we're really kind of bringing it down a little bit, niching it down, as they say in the biz.
Yeah, I would just second everything that you just said. And I think with this whole new world that we're living in, it gives us the capabilities of having an interview like we're having today. So
Yeah, with
I know.
someone
So
who's across, who's thousands of miles away. And so I guess it's a good time to welcome Portland, Oregon real estate agent, Rockstar, Erin Middleton to the podcast. Thank you for being here, Erin.
yeah,
Yay!
Erin, welcome.
So
happy to be here.
yeah, Erin is a rock star in her industry. She's been in the business for about 5 years, and she does everything from lead generation to closing her own deals and marketing to her database, and which is incredible, by the way. I could never do all of that. In 2019, you were top 15 solo agent at Keller Williams Realty Portland Central. You also did the green designation. Whoop, whoop. Shout out to green designations out there.
Yeah.
You are currently president of the East Side Professional Association. What is that, actually?
Yeah, that is a mouthful. That's what that is.
No, I was just going to say, Amanda, or Erin, I was just going to say, why don't you, your resume speaks for itself. Why don't you just kind of give our listeners and viewers a little background on how you got started and what made you get into this crazy world of real estate?
Yeah, great question. I think everyone finds their way into real estate. Most people find their way into real estate because other jobs didn't work out. I think very few people, I don't know, that is a sweeping generalization. So feel free to dial me back at any time.
No, I think that's right.
Yeah, most people don't get a degree in real estate and then become a real estate agent. I do know someone in the office who, I don't think he went to college. He just got into real estate with John L. Scott. He's now with KW. But he's kind of few and far between. So the reason I got into real estate is that I sucked at other jobs. I was fired from multiple jobs. I'm not good at being bossed around. I'm not good at being managed. And now I get to be my own boss. And guess what? I show up to work happier and more enthusiastic about what I'm doing. What was your other question? How long I've been doing this? Or?
Well, yeah, I was just saying, we'll get into a little bit of your background. One of my questions is kind of what you did prior to this kind of helped you in the real estate world. But, maybe I'll just dive right into that. You were in the advertising business for a long time. And, I think there's a lot of real estate agents out there that are, like, as we speak, are looking to change their careers because of COVID, because of everything that's going on. And, you were in an advertising field and everything like that. Gosh, looking at your thing, you were from New York to Dallas to San Francisco, the Bay Area. I actually used to live in San Francisco. What did you kind of take from that advertising background, and have you been able to apply some of those things to the real estate side of things? And maybe you can kind of give some of our listeners some advice and say, hey, even though you might be in marketing or in advertising, there are tools, things that you're learning in that industry that can help you in real estate. Maybe you can kind of expand on that.
Yeah, absolutely. I love the rebrand too, right? It's good to focus on one target audience. If there's anything, any job that you have, you will have transferable skills to real estate. Real estate is a business, but it's a people business. And that's all that any business is, right? You've got business, you've got people, try to make some money in between. I did come from a marketing, advertising, social media background, which is an always on industry, especially with social media. It was, can I make some posts late at night? Can I check my Facebook feed first thing in the morning? So thinking about always servicing your community or always servicing, immediate client needs, and always thinking a lead can come at any time of the day. That was a good groundwork. I think that helped me segue into real estate because it's the same thing. And I think that you have to be able to set your own boundaries, time boundaries, mental boundaries, business boundaries in this business, or it can steal your life very quickly. And I think that's something I wish I had learned early on. I'm still learning it 5 years in. So marketing, of course, marketing had some transferable skills very apparently, but even customer service, like if you work in retail, if you answer the phones, you are always servicing clients. And that's all real estate is. It's just in a different industry, right? The actual real estate job is very black and white. And I think that's what I love about it. There's no arbitrariness between like writing an offer, getting acceptance, scheduling inspections, what's wrong with the house, negotiating repairs, getting financing, and then getting to the closing table. That all is very black and white. It's everything else that is being a real estate agent that is exciting and scary, and you get to be creative. And we all get to make it up as we go to some extent.
Yeah. No, I like kind of how you said that always on industry. I kind of made a note about always on industry. And so you get the feeling that the real estate industry is not necessarily an always on industry. You have the ability to kind of take a break from time to time.
Yeah, you have to install those breaks.
Yeah.
I would love to chat with Amanda, and it can be offline. How does she do that, right? I think she's a little more senior than me, and she is building a team, and she's setting up boundary stations. Like, here's where I need to separate myself between, this other task that needs to get done. And so I think one of the first boundaries, not that you asked, but one of the first boundaries that I set was changing my voicemail to, if this call, takes place after 7 p.m., I'll return it the next business day. Now it's up to me to uphold that boundary, right? Maybe I'm calling somebody back at 7:30, 8 o'clock at night, and then I'm not listening to myself. I think I'd like to change that to 6 p.m. now.
I love that.
Always a work in progress. That's what a real estate job is.
So you mentioned that you're nurturing a brand new lead from the very start and putting them in your system. What is your system for a brand new lead? What does your protocol look like? You have a brand new lead come in. What do you do?
Don't lose it. Don't lose it on a piece of paper. Make sure they go in your phone. I have saved a bunch of voicemails that I need to just listen to them and put them into my database. A lead comes in, you need to get as much information about them as possible. Hopefully they've called you, see if text is available, try to get their email. So then you've got at least 2 forms of, getting in touch with them. And then they go into the database, make a little note, called about such and such on such and such day. And then they go into a follow-up plan. The fortune is in the follow-up. I think, Amanda, this, you can get a lead, you can get leads all day long, but until you convert them into an actual contract and then close, there's no money in a lead. There's potential. And so follow-up plan, ideally get an appointment with them. And it depends on if they're a seller lead or a buyer lead, right? What kind of appointment that is. Maybe they're hot to trot. Maybe they want to go out and see some homes. Like right now, you have to make that judgment call. Is this a good use of my time to go start showing them homes, which is, frankly, the exciting part of being a buyer's agent. But I
was just going to say on that point, I'm on the lending side of things. So it always drives me nuts when I get a lead and they're like, yeah, we're looking to buy. And they're like, yeah, we're working with such and such realtor. They're sending us houses every day and everything like that. And, I had one this morning, get their information. They have maybe $1,000 in the bank. They're months, if not years away from buying. I
Ugh,
mean,
what a waste.
and I'm thinking to myself, okay, here's this real estate agent that's just sending this family leads because they really want to buy a house and they have this lead and they don't want to lose them. But in reality, that agent is just wasting their time, quite frankly, at this point. How do you tackle that?
Well, you've got a buyer sheet. You've got a buyer lead sheet, and I am one of the oldest millennials, so I still like to hang my hat on, like, I need a freaking paper planner. I want a piece of paper in my hand, all this phone stuff. I'm trying to figure it out, but it's just a little too much for me sometimes. So I literally, if I get a lead, I get a buyer lead sheet from a template pile over here, and I try to fill out as much information as I can there. And one of the questions is, are you pre-approved? I always ask, are you pre-approved? Do you have a pre-approval letter? You get that hot to trot lead that's like, I want to go see this $1 million house right now. Can't you do it? Get off your lazy bum. This real estate agent, come show me this $1 million house. I can buy it today. That's a fake lead. That lead is going nowhere but in the mud. You are going to spin your wheels trying to make that person happy, and they need to respect your time. And where's that pre-approval letter or proof of funds for $1 million, sir? I'm not taking time out of my day, even if it is $1 million. So clients need to respect you, and you need to respect yourself. That's a good lesson to learn early on.
I love that.
I try to get as much information as I can on the phone. And I think I've learned over, the years that I've been doing this, what questions to ask when they're on the phone. If they're not willing to talk to me about finances, I don't need to know how much money they make, but if they're not willing to talk to a lender or email me their pre-approval letter ahead of a showing, I'm sorry, but you're gonna have to find someone else to show you this house.
I love that. That's a really good example of boundary setting too. And I feel like a lot of agents maybe get a little timid about asking those questions because, of course, in our culture, for some reason, we don't talk about money very frankly and honestly and openly. And so for you to be able to just ask those basic questions, how much money do you have in the bank? How much are you putting down? Are you pre-approved? Those basic questions, if they can't answer those, you're vetting them naturally that way and saving yourself a lot of time in the long run by just getting those questions answered right away. And you are appearing way more professional by just knowing those simple, it's really just a few quick little questions. And then you're saving your lender a lot of time and headache too.
Totally. I think, Amanda, that we have to get very comfortable early on. And somebody told me this early on, maybe it was Keller Williams or maybe it was somebody else, but we have to be very comfortable talking about money. If it's the buyer side of things, we need to know how much they're putting down. They need to know that buyer's agents work for free. The seller pays our fees more often, most of the time. And if the seller isn't going to pay our fees, how are we going to get paid? I haven't quite figured out that conversation yet, but on the listing side, definitely need to talk about money and know how much you're worth, because what's your commission is question numero uno for all real estate agents. And you should not be chopping down your own block. First and foremost, like, you are worth something. You are not a 4.5% agent. I'm a 6% agent, and I'm worth every percent of that. You want to talk to me about discount brokers? I can talk to you about discount brokers all day long. You can also sell your house through Walmart, but I wouldn't go there. Anyway, that's commission.
I love it. Hey, Erin, go off.
Well,
so hey, would you just talk?
Right? I mean, Amanda and I have these every day, and it's just like, okay, we're having the same conversation, again, and that's why it needs to be in your presentation. But we have to be comfortable talking about money for sure.
So with that being said, it kind of ties into one of our questions that we're going to, with what we're rebranding and everything that we always ask is, so you've learned all these lessons over the last couple of years. And so going back, for that new agent that's coming barred, what are some of the things that you wish you had known when you first started that you know now that would have saved you time, saved you headaches, you know, all that stuff?
Oh my
Is there,
God.
is there one? You can just find one. Probably too many.
I mean, something I wish I had known that would have saved me headaches. I mean, I can only speak to KW, Keller Williams. I don't know what it's like at another brokerage, and maybe that's shame on me. I love KW, and I absolutely drink the Kool-Aid every day, you know, for the rest of my life. I mean, I will be here forever. I love the culture. There are books, like literally, do you want to become a real estate agent? Here's a book on becoming a real estate agent.
Mm-hmm.
I read the book. Did I do what that book said? No. I thought, I'll do it my own way. I'm creative, I'm organized, like I'm in control of my life. I'm going to be Erin Middleton real estate agent in this whole new shiny way. And I've been trying to be that real estate agent for 4 years. It's this year where I'm like, you know what? They were telling the truth. Like, I need to be doing those things in the book. What does the book say? Let me flip back here. If I had started that system, that foundation, day one, I would be in a completely different spot now. The thing about real estate, and Amanda and I do the same thing, but why do we waste our time trying to recreate the wheel? People have been doing real estate for ages. Like, the system is there, the models are there, just follow them. I know you're new and you've got, you know, a new way of thinking and you're super cool and, you know, you have this background and like, you are going to do it differently than me, but start with the foundation that is there. Don't waste your time trying to come up with your own showing worksheet. Just borrow one. And then
what is that foundation for you, for both of you, Amanda and Erin? What is that? What does that foundation look like?
Well, you have to get into a habit of lead generation. Mm-hmm. First and foremost, I mean, we don't have a business if we don't have leads, and then you need to follow up with those leads. So the second system you need is following up with those leads. And then the third thing is writing contracts, going on appointments, writing contracts, negotiations. That's something you can learn, but I mean, you have to have experience in this business. I want to interject that for new agents, you are going to be nervous going to your first listing appointment or going to your first buyer consultation because you don't have a ton of experience in the field. One, hang your hat on the experience of the brokerage you're with. We have been in the Portland market for, I don't know, 30 years, 40 years now. I don't know. I just pulled that out of my butt, but,
sorry, we weren't.
And then you're going to get all this experience and you're going to be nervous by it. You're going to be scared by it. Clients are going to ask you questions. You're a sponge your first 3 years. Soak up absolutely everything you can and be grateful for every different situation you're in, because you get to be where I'm at. I'm only 5 years in, but the sponge part of me is starting to get thinner. It's probably like a brake pad. Like, I'm at 10% left and I'm like, I kind of got it now. So I'm just doing the things. I need to somehow increase my sponge capacity. But it doesn't matter about the years you've been in the business. It's how much experience do you have in those years. You're only as good of an agent as the range of experiences you've had. So don't let no two transactions are alike. Be grateful for that diversity. And then practice role play.
Yeah. That's awesome.
It's so funny because so many of the things that you said right before you said it, I wrote something down. I was like, yes, she said it. Yes, she said it. You know, like no one deal is the same. And you said something like, for the most part, the transaction is pretty much always the same, right? You earnest money, inspection, appraisal, It's those little things in between, how you can handle the stresses that come with those things.
Oh yeah.
Okay, going back to what you said, and I think for, how do you, Picking up the phone, truly, like still getting on the phone and calling people and talking to them is going to be number one. Of course, face to face is ideal, right? But being out in your community and being someone that is really kind of coming from a place of serving. There's a great book called The Go-Giver by Bob Berg. And then there's Go-Givers Sell More. I just picked it back up again, but really one of the first principles he talks about is add value. And there's a lot of different ways that you can do that as a real estate agent in your community. For instance, I have a client who just moved here literally yesterday. They drove across the country. They're being relocated with the Air Force. And I told her, and I always kind of say this from the very beginning, I'm like, you can ask me anything. Like, you can come to me for anything. And it doesn't have to be real estate related. And she's really worried. She has two boys that are in 5th grade. And she's like, honestly, right now, I'm just really stressed out about getting my kids into remote learning to get them into school. And so then here I go. Here's a few resources for that. So that it's just one less thing that she has to worry about. She's busy moving her whole family with, that is a lot. And if you can just do a few things that are super easy, it's a matter of copy pasting a link and sending that to them, showing them that you care because you know that there's a lot going on to them. That goes a really long way. And that just comes from that just goes back to caring about them. And when you show that you care and you can add value consistently, all the rest will really fall into place. Because like you said before, it truly, the transaction, if you're doing what does an average agent do in the country? 13, I don't know. But I
thought it was 6.
That's not a lot, but let's just say
I think it is closer to 6.
If you're doing 2 transactions a month, I would say that you've got a fair amount of experience and the process. It's easy. You're good. Now you just got to focus on how do I become their resource and realtor for life.
Yeah. Amanda, I haven't quite figured out how to harness that truth, right? Like you and I, real estate agents touch so many types of people and just numbers of people in a day, in a week, in a month. We probably know someone to solve this problem over here, but people don't really think of us as problem solvers outside of buying or selling a home. They don't even think about us, I don't think, in terms of maintaining that home. I'm definitely not the first person they call if they need a gutter person, but I should be the first person. I don't know. Let me know if you've got any branding tips in terms of getting your clientele to think of you as a resource outside of the transaction. Other than marketing, but.
I think that comes with time when you really start to foster a team. And so right now, and I've been really working on building a team in a lot of different aspects of my life. And in the real estate world, it's who's my number 1, number 2, number 3 phone calls for roofs? Who's that for plumbing? All of these things, people that are more than happy to have a 3-minute conversation with me on the phone that might save me or my clients hundreds and hundreds of dollars down the line. Who's my number 1 go-to for decks for general contractors? I have an amazing general contractor who saved my clients $30,000 just because they called my general contractor instead of just going in the phone book and going down the list. And so you're gonna be able to kind of, and I really think it honestly goes back to building that team. Who's your go-to? Who do you know is going to be the best source of that information, and sending them that way? Because ultimately, and I wrote this down, we're connectors. And that's a very real estate agent personality. We like to connect people. We like to know things. We're super social. And so the more that you can connect to the right people that are just honestly good human beings, you're going to crush it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm totally taking notes, while you're saying this, right? Real estate agents, I tell that when I tell that to potential clients when I'm interviewing for the job. If they're interviewing a couple agents, I will say, guess what? you're going to like us both. All real estate agents are extremely likable people. We're social. We are social butterflies. Like then there is so much ego in this business. So you're going to like us both. They probably won't hustle as much as me. I mean, I am kind of a grade A, type A hustler, like, let me get this done for you very quickly. And I'm resourceful. But I mean, a lot of real estate agents are resourceful. We all just have our, our different strengths. I don't know where I was going with that, but.
I think hearing you guys talk about those things, and like, it kind of goes down to leads and that communication and establishing that trust factor. I mean, you hear the term mortgage lender, mortgage officer, and people just roll their eyes and go, oh my God, it's so bad. And one of the things that I've been able to do that's been able to grow my business is be very upfront and honest with them, and it's just like, one of the lines that I always use is, hey, I don't care who you use as a lender, just please use somebody local, especially for first time home buyers. And I say, hey, this is my cell phone number. Call me if you have questions. You don't need to pick up a 1-800 phone number or anything like that. And just kind of to build on that, one of the things, like, I have like a little new client worksheet that I fill out all the time. And Amanda's seen, I'm just super ADD with my leads, and I have a whole Excel file, and I have a date of when I get the lead. I have a date of when I last communicated with them. And then I have a date of when I'm going to follow up with them. And I have like 220 in my Excel file right now. And I cannot remember all of them. It's impossible. Yeah. The one thing I do is when I make those notes on the initial conversation, like I had somebody today, they have a 2-year-old daughter named Haven. Boom, that's one of the first things that goes in there. And so if I, let's say a week or two goes by, we haven't communicated or anything like that. And if I know that little bit of information about their family or something, or where they're from, I mean, Erin, you've lived all over the country. If somebody came in your office and says, oh, I spent a lot of time, down in Florida or whatever, you can kind of pick up things to like relate to that individual. Yeah. And so when I send an email in 2 weeks, I go, hey guys, just checking in. I always say, let me know if you have any questions. I never try to steer them in any direction. And then something like, and I hope little Haven's doing well. That little blurb could be the difference between separating you from the competition. And they're going to go, wow, Amanda, Chris, Erin, they remember my daughter's name. That little tidbit about when I used to live in Florida, something to make them feel like you care. And we do care, that's the thing at the end of the day is, I really care about all my clients, and I want to get them in the houses. I want to get them into a product. And if you can just make those little extra notes about the clients and the customers that you're dealing with, I mean, I can't tell you how many times I had calls like, oh, I talked to one lender, he didn't give me the time of day. So a lot of times they weren't ready to buy. They didn't have the money or anything like that. And I look at that as, oh my God, that's an opportunity for me to just nurture that client and that lead. And I mean, Amanda and I know this, we've worked with leads for over a year, and then we finally get them into a house. So those little things can really go a long way in creating that trust and that, and Amanda, we talk about having all those players, an agent, a lender, a CPA, an insurance person. Having that little circle of trust is a huge, and it saves people money at the end of the day.
And also always knowing that team or that circle of trust, as you call it, it's going to evolve as you evolve as an agent, and that's happened to me a lot over the years. But I think that, going back to what you were saying about, just touching base with your client and just seeing how their daughter is, maybe taking it a step further. Maybe they just moved here and their daughter is interested in dance classes, and your friend, their daughter goes to this dance studio. Like, hey, have you checked this out? You just text them. Especially, it's like, for me, I'll be, how like you won't want to, you'll wake up in the morning and you'll be thinking about someone, and then like they just happen to call you or text you, and you're like, oh my gosh, I was just thinking about you. Doing the same thing with them. You're driving down the street, and maybe they mention, maybe they're coming from somewhere in the South, and you're like, oh, I just drove by Music City Hot Chicken, and I know that's really popular in the South. And you just send them a text. It's like, you guys would really enjoy this place. Go check it out. Let me know what you think. It's stuff like that, just showing that you're thinking about them and showing them that you care, and offering a great recommendation. And guess what you're doing? You're adding value.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there has to be a good balance. Like I hear both of you emphasize the connection, right? You have to connect with someone. Even if we just met them at an open house, we have to connect. You know, it needs to be quality over quantity. At the same time, I know that all three of us are always trying to balance quantity, because quantity pays the bills, with the quality, right? How do I make time for all of these people that are really important to me? How do I give of myself to them? How do I connect with them? And Amanda, I mean, you try to straddle the mental health side of this with the work balance, and I want to hear more about that if that makes sense for the podcast. But it's sales is as much connecting with people as it is selling them on the dream of owning their own home. But I was listening to a podcast, and I wish I remembered exactly which one it was and which episode, but they definitely said, like, take the time to connect first. And I'm very businessy. Like, I want to just jump into what I need from you when I need it by, and I need to dial myself back and be like, okay, ask Amanda how her day is going, you know, really listen to her, and then ask her for what you need. I'll jump in and then I'll be like, oh, by the way, how are you? Nope, don't have time. Bye.
Yeah. It's so easy to get caught up in the grind of real estate. And then before you know it, you're always working. And that goes back to setting, of course, it all goes back to setting boundaries with yourself, but then also recognizing, and something that I've really come to terms with in the 7.5 years that I've been in this industry. And I remember that 5-year mark. And that was seriously one of the worst years of my entire life. And so, and kind of like leading up to that, it was just tough. I thought I could do everything, realized I shouldn't be and couldn't. But then at that point, I just kind of was in this really depleted state. And I've changed the way that I think about real estate. I used to want to do a lot of business. And now I'm kind of like, you know what? I'm good. Like I'm fed. I'm good. My database is feeding me. I don't really need to work as hard anymore so that I can take better care of myself, my family, my community, and my clients. And it's that quality over quantity. And really setting those expectations with, well, how much business do I really even want to do in order to live the life? I like to ski 45 days a year. Like I really love to ski, and you can't really do that that's really hard to do in the real estate industry, especially if the ski mountain is 3 hours away and you need to show a property that night, and so you really have to set, of course, it goes to delegation and building a team and setting expectations with your clients. And now I don't have a problem telling my clients that I like to ski during, I like to spend a lot of time doing things that I enjoy doing.
Yeah.
But, and going back to, I think that real estate is such an amazing vessel. And if you take care of yourself and you really just intentionally scale, you can do this until the day you die. So for me, I'm more interested in the long game than the short game. I know that there's going to be periods of time where maybe I'm only doing 15 deals in a year. And honestly, that's fine. I don't care. Like that's plenty for me. That puts food on my table. That allows me my 45 days of skiing. I'm good. And so really just not, maybe I think in our industry, we look at the top producers and we're like, I don't want that life. How do you build a life that you do want and then still have a business that is regenerative? So yeah.
I think you definitely have to know your numbers to be okay with the 15 transactions. Like, here's your cost of living, here are your business expenses. If you make this much, this is your average commission, this will cover you, and then some. I feel like I always identify that bullseye, and then for whatever reason, like it kind of just goes off center, and I'm like, I don't have enough. Like, coming from scarcity isn't going to get me very far in life. I need to work on and do more affirmations around abundance. But what I was going to say is we're both talking about the database, and you said, you know, your database feeds you. You have built it and nurtured it to this point. If new agents are listening to this podcast, and it's a good one, so subscribe, you need to be building your database. Is your business. Your business is your database. Every person you know, every person in your phone, every person on your Facebook page is in your database, but like literally put it in something. And if Excel is your database, that's fine too. Your database is the best, is the one that you use. Like the best database is the one that you use. That's what I wanted to say. And so nurturing the database so that it feeds you is really all you need to focus on.
Erin,
Yes.
I was just going to say, I recently just hired my first assistant, and it has literally changed my whole life. It's the greatest thing in the world. I recommend everybody go do it. What are your thoughts on that? Do you have an assistant? When did you hire your assistant? And what is your advice for people out there who maybe you're like, oh, I can't afford it, I shouldn't do it? What's your take on that?
Yeah, great question. Very timely. Monday will be 2 months with my assistant.
Same here.
Yeah, congratulations.
Thank you.
It is a big leap into, you know, growth. And I mean, I would love for Amanda to do a whole podcast on what she does with her assistant and how she does it and how they help her. I think only 2 months in, I'm still wrestling with like, there's not an immediate ROI. She's taken things off my plate, and I'm so grateful for that. And I like her, and she's smart, and she's talented, and like I can see where she's going to take my business. Right now, I need to back up, spend time to train her, as well as it's put a magnifying glass on the systems I didn't have in place. And so I'm like, I'm not perfect. I thought I was. You're a great daily reminder that I'm not, and I can't do everything. So I need your help. And, you know, can you do this for me? I mean, what's it been like for you, Chris?
You know, it's interesting. So I knew I needed one, and I'm curious your take on this as well. And I know loan officers that are in my region that have been doing this for 10, 15, 20 years, and they've never had an assistant. And I am 2.5 years getting into my third year, and I'm like, I need an assistant. And so, you know, I feel like there's never, everybody always says it's never really a perfect time. You just got to do it. And there is that fear factor of, oh my gosh, you know, now I have somebody that has a family. You know, my assistant's got a 9-year-old son, and it's like, God, I got to get the business keep coming in. And it kind of motivates you to keep going and to really keep driving it. And I'll tell you one thing right now is, you know, I teamed up with my best friend, so we're a teammate right now. But, you know, we have, I don't know, 30 deals in the pipeline right now. And there's no way that I could stay on top of all those deals, making sure conditions are done, making sure titles ordered, making sure insurance is going. Look at my leads list, make sure I do up my follow-up calls, make sure I hit my leads list calls, because over the last few months, I would go back to my leads list and I would be about 2 weeks, you know, late to when I should have followed up. And I'd get out there like, oh, you know what, Chris, we ended up having to jump on this deal. We had to get another lender real quick. You were awesome, but thanks so much. Well, I just lost that deal, you know? And so I'm now seeing how it's going to be a huge benefit to our business, because I can now focus on
Mistakes in this business could be, I don't know, starting, you know, overpricing a property and having it sit, you know, for several weeks. And then, you know, 3 weeks later, it's $20,000 less than it was.
Right.
And I think you cut out, but I wanted to just say that, like, Chris was talking about, you know, he loses a lead and he, you know, wasn't able to follow up with them. I mean, that's a commission check, right? For us, if we lose a lead, it's no biggie because it wasn't on our plate to begin with, but you make expensive mistakes in this business, and you have to get over that. You make an expensive mistake once, you won't make it again though. And so I think fail fast and fail forward in real estate. And if you can just keep those two things in mind, you're going to be fine, but you're going to make mistakes and they're going to cost a lot of money. And that just is what it is. Sorry.
Yeah. And honestly, the biggest thing that is your recovery time around those failures gets shorter, and you forgive yourself sooner and faster for those expensive mistakes. And they're all expensive in this industry. Every mistake is expensive, unfortunately. So.
Yeah.
You mentioned affirmations, Erin. So like one of the things I do every morning is I do gratitudes and affirmations. And the gratitudes help me when something does go bad and falls apart. You look back on all the things that you're incredibly grateful for. And then I am a huge believer in affirmations. At the end of last year, I wrote over and over, like, I'm going to crush it in 2020. I'm going to do this amount of deals. I'm going to do this, and just over and over and over again. And I swear to God, I mean, stuff like that, getting your mindset into that kind of, hey, I'm going to win. I'm not losing this. I'm going to get that. And my business just skyrocketed after I started doing it. What do you do affirmations every day? I heard you mention it. How do you do those?
It's a goal of mine. I think I've gotten a regular morning routine practice down in the pandemic. Definitely do meditation, and I've added in at least 10 minutes of yoga, and that has just helped me like center myself, to start the day right. Want to be better about affirmations, and awesome people want to do business with me.
Yeah.
Awesome people want to do business with me. Every day, awesome people want to do business with me. I'm doing it right now, and I already feel better.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome.
And awesome people do want to do business with you, because my guess your vibe attracts your tribe.
Oh my gosh, if I could just get you to reverberate my affirmation back to me every day, like that was powerful.
Amanda, you need to record a little thing where she hits that button and the voice pops up.
With like binaural beats,
Oh my gosh, that was my affirmation.
Cool. Erin, I was just saying, as we kind of, we got a few more questions as we kind of wrap this up, but one of the things I definitely wanted to hit on with you being in Portland market, I feel like there's a global migration going on. I've heard it from a few people, people are asking themselves, where do we want to live? Where do we want to retire? I won't name the company, but I had an individual out in San Francisco the other day called me up, and he works for a huge, huge tech company. And he's like, we're not going back for 2 years. We can work wherever we want. And my family lives in Denver. I think I'm going to buy a house in Denver. What are your thoughts? What are you seeing in the Portland market? And my question is basically, how is this global migration, I'm just calling it a global migration, affecting your market in Portland? Are you seeing a net outflow, inflow, and what are some of the things that you're doing to kind of be prepared for this? Because I'm sure people are like, hey, you know what? I don't want to live in the inner cities. I'm going to head out to the West Coast, the Oregon coast, and grab a place. Can you just kind of elaborate what you're seeing in your market, and if you're seeing the same things, and what steps you're doing to kind of capitalize on those?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, can you define global migration?
So it actually, the term came from a friend of mine who's on the board at Freddie Mac. And he said, listen, I'll bring it back to like the local United States. People in the United States are moving. They are looking at it like, I don't want to be in a big city anymore. You're seeing the residential community, the rural community starting to come back. Those big buildings in these cities, these companies are going, well, maybe we can do like a smaller little operation somewhere, outside of town. So that's kind of what I mean by global migration. People moving to Portland.
Oh yes, it's funny.
Yeah. I actually just shared a really awesome resource because can you see my screen?
Yeah, yes, we can see it.
Because we don't have to guess, right? We actually can know these things with data, right? And so we get to know exactly what county is Portland in?
Multnomah.
So I just have this awesome tool that I found. Where is
the green one? That big green one up top. That's Clackamas. There we are.
Multnomah. Okay, so I just found this awesome tool, and I use this all the time. It's called howmoneywalks.com, And basically it tracks the influx and the outflux of the wealth migration of each county. And so it looks like the greatest amount of and it's migration, Chris. It's what you're talking about. And so it's still, Multnomah is still a growing county. It looks like the number one place that you've gained wealth from is San Francisco County. But then
let me speak to this, because the first 4 cities that we've gained wealth from, that has been happening for as long as I've been alive. Californians have always migrated, if you will, north to Oregon because it's cheaper, it's relatively the same lifestyle, and it's easy to get to other big cities, San Francisco, Los Angeles, Seattle. Lane County is Eugene, Oregon, which is the popular college town. University of Oregon is there, so that doesn't surprise me that people are moving to Portland from Eugene. You can see now where the migration patterns are happening to Clackamas County, which is on the outskirts. It's a suburb of Portland. Clark County is to Washington. You know, Portland and Vancouver are like, I don't know, what's another big city in Denver? I don't know, maybe it's like, actually, I don't know what the comparison is, but there's no income tax across the river in Washington. So people who are looking to save money, get a bigger house, your money just goes further in Vancouver. So Clark County doesn't surprise me. Deschutes is Bend, Oregon. So a lot of people are moving out of Portland to Bend. Arizona, I think Oregonians have always chased the sun. Arizona has popped up from a lot of clients of mine this year. So I see that they're moving there too. We're not on Multnomah anymore. I don't know which, anyway, you change counties. Migration patterns, I think something that all 3 of us are probably experiencing, right? We all look like we're millennials. I've already told you I'm one of the oldest millennials, so that tells you how old I am.
I turn 40 next month. Does that mean I'm not a millennial? I feel like I'm not a millennial.
You're so close. Yeah, so close. I just turned 39, and we all are benefiting from the largest generation since the baby boomers entering into homeowning stage. And so if it's part of the American dream, which Amanda and I see all the time that it still is, to own a home, they're talking to us and they want a real estate agent. You know, we get concerned that maybe the industry is going to go the way of Amazon buying or Zillow iBuyers or, you know, the new players, Open Door, you know, that our jobs are just going to disappear. Some research came out at the beginning of this year, maybe it was the end of last, that said that percentage-wise, more millennials actually want a real estate agent. They want the guidance. They want the counsel. They want that personal interaction. They want that mentor. And so our jobs aren't going anywhere, but I think there's a lot more emphasis. There's a lot more knowledge to digest these days about it. But again, back to migration, people, this is such a crazy year to be doing real estate. I don't think all of us were watching the numbers stabilize towards the end of last year. We were watching inventory slowly grow. We were watching prices kind of stabilize. And I pride myself on being a trend hunter and a forecaster. It's what I did previously in advertising research. And if you'd asked me what this year was going to be like, it'd be greater inventory and prices were going to stabilize, if not drop, because of the surplus in supply. COVID hit, everyone stayed home, and everyone who still had their jobs wanted to buy. So, I mean, it completely flip-flopped the dynamics that we saw.
And appreciation went up.
Ending last year, appreciation skyrocketed, prices are skyrocketing. It's always a macroeconomics balance in this business. And emphasis is on the home. Emphasis is on where you are quarantining, being stuck, and it's a great year to get into real estate.
No,
yeah.
That's good.
On that note, I say we start to wrap it up a little bit and head to our 5 questions.
Well, so our 5 questions, I have 2 that we're definitely doing for sure. So Amanda, you're going to have to If I miss one, jump in here for me.
I won't remember it. I'll try though.
We're all about winging it here, Erin. A lot of times we just wing it and just go with it. But
and look at how great winging it turns out. It's always great.
Yeah, it's natural.
You guys are great.
Okay, so one of the questions that we always like to ask, and I got a new book that I'm reading right now. It's called The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel. It is phenomenal. Like, Amanda, I'm going to buy it for you, or I'll just give it to you and after I read it. But what is a book you recommend to all real estate professionals, Erin?
Well, if I can tout my company, it's the MREA. No, Millionaire Real Estate Agent.
I have read that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll grab it real quick. But,
I have read that one. That one is a good one, even as a lender.
Gary Keller wrote the book. Like, you read this, anybody can be a real estate agent.
Yeah.
If you want to be a millionaire, income potential is endless. So there you go.
I like it. All right. What is the craziest transaction you've ever had, and what did you learn from it?
I saw that question, and I can't remember all the crazy transactions I've been a part of. And we don't have enough time for that, but I'm in one right now, and I'm in the middle between seller wants to buy something and seller has something being sold, and this lender is moving slower. Well, both lenders are moving slower and everyone wants to move faster. And I'm like, I can't move any faster than this side. So what I've learned is you can't control everything. You just have to be stuck in the middle sometimes.
Cool. I like it. We used to ask, what was the last concert you've been to? But obviously with COVID, that's not very good. But do you have a memorable
enough for concerts anymore?
Do you have a memorable concert? Do you know you're talking to an amazing musician and Amanda Hofer here?
No, I didn't.
Oh my gosh, she's been Amanda. How long have you been performing and singing and all this? 20 years?
My whole life.
Your whole
performing
life?
And singing, yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
So.
Well, I want your next album.
You can just type in my name on Spotify or YouTube. You'll find some stuff. Yeah.
That's amazing. I don't have anything for you. I will tell you the song of the year though, and probably my favorite song for the rest of my life will be Blinding Lights by The Weeknd. That song is number one. I don't know. It's the song of 2020. I love it. It makes me dance every time I hear it.
Cool. I love it. Amanda, do you have anything else? Erin, this has been great. You've been amazing. I mean, I think so many real estate agents can get so much out of this. And I love what you're talking about, boundaries, changing your voicemail. It's funny. I called a listing agent the other day and they had that same voicemail. They're like, it's after 6 o'clock. I'm with my family. I'll call you back.
It works. You're like, oh,
it does.
Okay. I won't hear from them until tomorrow. That's okay.
And, to kind of end on this real quick, I had a career coach that told me one time, he goes, you set the expectation. So if you are always calling back this real estate agent right away, okay, and then they call you one time and you don't call them back right away and they go to another lender and you go, what's the deal? How come I was busy with my family. It's not their fault that they went to, you're at fault because you've created this expectation in their head that like, oh God, if Chris doesn't call me back right away, then I'm going to move on. So I tried to do a better job of that as well.
That's really good feedback. And I'm all about acknowledgement. Just, you might be on the phone, you might be in the middle of something, but just letting them know that they're there. You can 100%. Like a text, you can love it. You can do an automatic reply. If you're on the phone, I'm on the other line. Can I call you back in a bit? For them to just know, or with the email, I could be better about autoresponder, honestly. Because I don't like autoresponders because they clog up people's inboxes. They irritate me personally, but just letting them know, hey, I heard you, I see you. Can you just give me a little bit of time so that I can get back to you? The one thing, can you guys hear that?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, getting a phone call. So the one thing that Chris, and the biggest thing that Erin said today that I think we all could just remember, not just in real estate, but in our lives, is you don't have to reinvent the wheel for anything. there are people out there who have made a lot of mistakes. I feel like I've made every mistake in the book, and there's people that genuinely don't want you to make those mistakes. And if you can just take one thing from this whole episode, and that is, don't reinvent the wheel. Quit thinking that you know everything. Because like you said, you talked about ego. Transcend that. Like, you do not know everything. There are people that have done this time and time again, and you're not going to do a better job than just following the directions of somebody who has done this before. And just like, don't make our mistakes. This episode is full of a lot of examples of mistakes that you can make, and learning how to communicate those, to just honestly knowing that you're getting caught up in your own stuff and you really need to get out of your own way.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and you will make mistakes, and it's okay. Just own it.
Yeah.
Own your shit and move on.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Tomorrow's a new day.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Yay. Thank you so much for joining
Erin, thank
us
you so
today.
much.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, I think on that note, I think that are we missing anything, Chris? It's been a few months.
I think we're good. I think we're
okay. Awesome. Well, Erin, thank you so much, and good luck in Portland. Stay safe out there with all the fires and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. You guys too. Stay healthy.
All right.
Thank you. Bye.
Cool.
Awesome.
That was awesome.
I'm gonna